Alrighty, so today we are going to finish up reviewing these MLS games that happened last night. And with this review being done, this is going to be the last review we're going to do for 2 weeks in terms of MLS action as we get a little bit of a Leeds Cup break after last night's action. Obviously, when it comes to the Leeds Cup, I'll probably do what I did last year, pretty much review select game. I'm not going to review every single game that is, but I'll review some select game that I feel like could be very entertaining to watch it, our kind of marquee matchup. And then as we get into the knockout stage, that's when I'm probably going to start reviewing as many games as possible. But with that being said, let us begin with talk about the first game, which is Cincinnati versus Inter Miami. And this was a game that was billed as a marquee matchup because you have two teams that could definitely face against each other down the line in the playoffs. Now, obviously, the big story also coming out of this game is no Messi and Jordi Alba in this game. They were indeed suspended by the league because of not participating in the All-Star game, and it was a little bit of a late decision as well. They didn't announce it until Friday, and again, depending on how you look at it, it might be the right decision, it might not be the right decision, and that I think this is also just another example of the fact that no player is above the law in this league. Even with Messi being the GOAT and being the poster child to this league, I think Don Gabber kind of makes it clear that, yeah, just because he's the poster child of this league doesn't mean that he has a right to bypass the rule, and the rule specifically said that if you decide not to participate in that MLS All-Star game, even if it's just to take a break, you're going to be suspended in the next game. So this was a big opportunity for Cincinnati to get something out of it, and unfortunately, they didn't take advantage of it. In fact, it was kind of one of those games, especially late in this one. Yeah, it kind of felt a little similar to the San Diego Nashville game, where a big game kind of did not live up to its hype in terms of the actual product. Though there was some chances early on in the first half. 2 minutes in, Orejano would have a shot that was deflected high and wide before Valenzuela was in on goal, but he hits it right to Rios Novos as Cincinnati on the front foot again, just like last time both of these teams were facing against each other. Though Alande was in on goal there, but he missed one in the 5th minute before Salvatano would absolutely rob Fafa Pico on a free header. I mean, Pico, he probably couldn't believe it that Salvatano make an incredible save denying him there. But there was no doubt that Miami had woke up. Now they were pressing to trying to get the opener. Kamara would put it wide from close range. The shot was 4-2 for Cincinnati 15 minutes in. Suarez then tried to do a scissor kick, and if this was Suarez 10 years ago, he probably would have pulled this one off, but he missed wide there before Weigand heads it right to Salvatano, and then he missed wide from close just 1 minute later. Miami continued to dominate possession and creating a couple of half chances to score the opening goal. There was a shout for a penalty for Miami not given not long after, and then Suarez would put it high from close in the 45th minute, and despite the pressure, we do head to halftime scoreless between both of these teams. In the second half, Suarez would miss wide from the free kick before he hits one on the volley that goes right to Salvatano. That actually came out of a bad turnover from Cincinnati as well. And again, if this was Suarez a couple of years ago, or even if this was Suarez from last year when he was so informed, he would have punished Cincinnati as a resort. He just hasn't been himself this year, and rightfully so because you can clearly see Father Time has caught up to him. Evander then hits one on the doorstep of goal. Yeah, that is one that Evander would want to have back. You would have bet your house that Evander would have put it away from about 2 yards out, especially get left completely unmarked in the back post. Valenzuela would then hits one right to Rios Novos before Suarez would miss one into the side netting, as now both of these teams were exchanging some possession and chances, and were pressing for the opener goal. Pico tried to do so, but he missed wide from close. And then Rios Novos actually denied Evander, but he spilled this one, and Santos actually got there on the rebound, but somehow it was clear off the line because Santos didn't really get too much of that shot there. And again, this is the thing about Rios Novos. He is not a starting caliber MLS goalkeeper. He's pretty much a backup at best, and you can definitely start see some of the flaws, and also just again, it is pretty clear that Miami desperately want to start it back in goal as soon as possible. We then go for a period where not much really happened, as this looks like it was destined to end in a draw, and indeed it was, ended a scoreless draw between both of these teams. As the shots in this one, 13 shots with the 8 that Miami has, 4 shots on goal for the 3 that Cincinnati has, 2 shots on target with the 7 that Cincinnati has. Both teams had 2 shots that was blocked, and possession-wise, 54% possession compared to the 46% possession that Miami has in this game. And again, we'll see whether or not if both of these teams will face off against each other in the playoffs. I'm assuming that, of course, is going to be the case, and that could be a heck of a matchup. But yeah, in terms of who will be the more happier side, it's not often I say the the home side are the more happier than the road side, but I think that might be the case. I mean, consider Miami were missing their golden goose in this one and still able to shut down this high power Cincinnati team and especially able to avoid them to get all 3 points, which has been a regular occurrence for Cincinnati this season on the road. I think they'll be definitely more happier. And for Cincinnati, yes, they get a road point out of that. And anytime when you get a road point out of Chase Stadium, it's definitely considered to be good. But consider, they're in the midst of this supporter shield battle. You just kind of sense with the way that with Miami didn't have Messi and Alba and the chances that they course were given, they'll definitely be a little bit disappointed that they didn't get all 3 points in this one. But either way, they are at the top of the supporter shield standings after this draw, and we'll see how long that's gonna last. Especially, I think Miami still control their own destiny in terms of the supporter shield. They're one of those teams that have so many games in hand because of the Club World Cup that they participate, and they'll definitely use those game in hand to trying to make up late in the season and climb all the way up in the standings. I mean, where Miami is right now in the standings, that's not where they're going to be at the end of the season. They're going to rise up in the standings, and I have a feeling that if they continue the form that they're in, they're probably going to finish at least in the top three in the East this season. Now, moving on in terms of the next match, is Philly and Colorado. And I gotta say, I thought Zach Steffen did it again. I mean, this season I've seen this before with Zach Steffen able to stand on his head and steal a win for the Colorado Rapids, but unfortunately, the Union finally found the breakthrough. And once they found their breakthrough, yeah, they you just kind of had a sense that they eventually were going to win it. Though they had to be patient in this one. They had to wait very late to eventually get the winning goal in this one. In the first half, Sullivan with the game's first shot, but he missed just wide before Lukic hits it right to Stefan as the Union was on the front foot and was pressing for the opener. John Jack would then hits it right to Stefan before Diamani hits it right to Stefan in the 12th minute. It was all Union so far early in this one. And get used to it because for the majority of the game, it was pretty much all Union in this one. But at that point, most of these shots weren't really challenging Stefan up to that point. That would quickly change though because Baribo would then miss wide from close, and then he had to deny Diamani, Stefan that is from close range. John Jack would then have a tap in, but somehow he skies that one to the Delaware River. Yeah, Danny John Jack would definitely want to have that one back. That is one that should have been 1-0, and that's kind of a shot that sums up the Union so far. Just missing chance after their chance, and the reason this is still 0-0, and the other reason why this is still 0-0 is Zach Steffen, because he would then deny Diamani from close in the 31st minute. The shots were 10-0 for the Union up to this point, and there would be more shots too. Though the first shot for the Rapids did see Navarro miss wide from close range, but then in the 37th minute, on only the second shot of the game, and the fact that they're already been outshot 10-2, the Colorado Rapids score. It's Navarro. He scored to make it 1-0 against or 1-0 in favor of the Rapids, and yeah, just completely against the run of play. And this was actually one that Bassett actually struck the post there. So technically, this is the third shot for the Rapids up to this point. But Navarro was in the right place, right time to clean up the mess with a wonderful Superman diving header there. And just like that, the Rapids lead 1-0, despite the fact that they completely been outplayed up to this point. Sullivan did look to respond, but he puts it over before Stefan deny him from close in the 43rd minute. And I just immediately wrote, yep, it looks like it's one of those nights for Stefan again, where I've seen this before. He did it against the Quakes, where he stood on his head to make like 13 saves in that one, and I thought he was going to do the same thing in this one as well, because he was the only reason why somehow we head to halftime with Colorado leading 1-0, despite the fact the Union put up like 15 plus shots in the first half. In the second half, John Jackwood hits it over from close range. We kind of picked up where we left off with the Union continue to press for the opener. Stefan would then deny Diamani from close again. Yeah, Diamani is going to have nightmare of Zach Stefan. How many times he would deny it in this one? But in the 69th minute, the resistance finally broke through as the Union finally got the equalizer. It's Baribo. He scored from Lukic and Wagner, so when all things are in doubt, why not rely on your top goal scorer, Ty Baribo? He scored here to make it 1-1 in this one as the Union continued to press for the second. Lukic would then miss an absolute sitter to take the lead in the 80th minute. Again, that just kind of also some in terms of the finishing. The finishing was just not there for the most part. Baribo would then puts it wide from close in the 88th minute, but then in the 89th minute, The Union finally got their most deserved lead as Mikhail Uru would score from Vasilev to make it 2-1 in favor of the Union. He actually came off the post and in there. So, yeah, on a night where the Union just have no luck in terms of their finishing for once, seems like the soccer gods kind of smile upon on for once, or at least kind of shows them some mercy in terms of how many shots that they put in this one, and they score one that was posted in. Navarro would then look to response again, but he missed one in the third minute stoppage time. But in the fifth minute stoppage time, Mikael Uru makes sure it's all 3 points for the Union. So he scored from Bedoya to make it 3-1 in favor of the Union, and that would be the final score of this game. And the shots in this one, yeah. I mean, this should not be a surprise. I mean, the Union was putting a shooting gallery in front of Zach Steffen's net. 30 shots compared to just 5 that the Rapids had. 1 shot on goal compared to 11 that the Union has in this one. 10 shots off target compared to 3 that Colorado has. There was 21 shots in this one that was not blocked whatsoever. 7 shots that was blocked with none that the Rapids had, and possession-wise, 60% possession compared to 40% possession the Colorado Rapids has in this game. And yeah, I gotta feel bad for Zach Steffen. Anytime when you have these kind of moments and the goalkeeper that stood on his head but couldn't come out with the win, I mean that I just kind of feel bad for him because that Rapids defense just completely hung him out to dry. It was non-existent in this one, and you also got to give credit to the Union. I mean, there are times where I've seen teams where they put so many shots and couldn't finish and are getting stonewalled by the opposition goalkeeper that not only can be a very frustrating thing, but it's got to a point where it almost kind of got in there can get in their heads, and that it just feels like it's just one of those nights where they just ran into a hot goalkeeper. But credit to the Union, they never stopped and never persevere in terms of trying to get the win, and they were rewarded with a big 3-1 win in this one against the Rapids. Now, moving on, in terms of the next match, is DC and Austin. So this was probably the best performance that Austin have played so far, especially on an offensive perspective. Though, again, is this mainly because of the fact that they finally seems like they woke up on the attacking end, or the fact that they're facing against DC United? Because it's not very hard to put up these number against DC this season, considering this is regarded as one of the worst, if not the worst, defensive team in the league this season. But I mean, I will say that if you're an Austin fan, this has been something you've been waiting for all season, especially on the attacking end. But in the first half, 9 minutes in, Pereira would puts it high from long range before Rubio would lash one wide from long range, as Austin kind of picked up where or they had a couple of half chances early on and were looking for the opener. The first shot for DC did see Leal puts it high from long range, but then the 21st minute, Uzuni would score. And this also is great news if you're an Austin fan, because it seems like Uzuni has finally started to get things going, as he scored here from hindsight to make it 1-0 in favor of Austin. And this is also important too, because with Brandon Vasquez being injured, Uzuni now gets a chance to play in the spot that he wants to, and the pressure is definitely on him now that he is actually put in the position that he's supposed to start in the beginning. He could be providing now, and so far, in the last couple of games, he finally started to turn the corner a bit. Cervinia didn't look to answer, but he missed high from long range. We then go for a period where not much really happened. Baraza would then deny Bureau from long range in the 43rd minute, but then 1 minute later, Austin make it 2-0, as Owen Wolf would score from Dessler and Bakari to make it 2-0 in favor of Austin, and that would be the scoreline as we head into the second half. Though that lead quickly cut in half, as in the 48th minute, Peglo would score from Priani to make it 2-1 in favor of Austin. It feels like every time when DC are kind of feel like they're back in the game, João Peglo basically is the guy that scores the goal for this DC team. Priani then looked to answer, but he puts it high there, as DC started well in the second half. And as good as Austin was in the attack this game, their defense was not great whatsoever in this one. And again, I guess maybe that's kind of the small trade-off where, if you're going to be more attacking minded, there's going to be some sacrifice on the defensive end, because DC definitely had some big chances in this one. I think this is one of those games where the scoreline didn't really indicate the fact that this was actually a really even game for the most part, and a very entertaining game as well, because I definitely didn't think that was going to be the case, especially when you see a DC and Austin game. But in the 54th minute, Benteke would hit it right to Stuver, but then in the 60th minute, really kind of against the run of play, Usami Bagari would score from Pereira and Wolf to make it 3-1 in favor of Austin. So this is Austin night when Bakari would get on the score sheet. He's been a guy that hasn't been on the score sheet for a very long time, and you can definitely felt the relief in his face when that ball ends up into the back of net. But it's also one that is just so well worked from Austin. Probably the best work attack that Austin have looked throughout this entire season. But that lead quickly looked like it was cut down to one goal again as Priani put the ball into the back of net. They go to VAR to see whether or not if there was an offside, and there was. So the goal was chopped off. But yeah, that is one that Austin they got away with that one there because they completely switched off when they got that 2 goal lead back. How many times we said when you score a goal, you're always the most vulnerable, and yeah, Austin was definitely vulnerable in terms of that, and they're very fortunate the fact that goal was chopped off because of offside by VAR. Stroud would then puts it high from long range before Peglo would cross one right to Priani. And again, I thought DC was putting some pressure again, but also I thought did a good job in terms of surviving the pressure. And as the time winds down, DC wasn't really creating that many dangerous chances as we thought that they would be after they kind of pressed after Austin hit that third goal. Barraza would then deny O'Brien from close in the 90th minute, but then in the fourth minute of stoppage time, Austin make sure this is all 3 points as Robert Taylor would score his first goal for Austin. So what a night this is for Austin. You get Uzuni now started to score a couple more goals and started to get going. You get Usani Bakari finally break his goal drought, but you also get Robert Taylor finally get his first goal for Austin. I mean, he's been playing on a bit more of a limited role, which I'm kind of surprised that that's the case. I'm kind of surprised he's not getting more of a role for this Los Verdes team, but he finally scored his first from Austin, and it was an absolute banger there from Robert Taylor. We see he scored those kind of go with Miami back in his days, and yeah, just like that, it was 4-1 in favor of Austin. Though there was a penalty then given to DC as Swatok would brought down Benteke in the box because, as I said, defense in this game it was kind of optional at times in this one, and Benteke won the penalty. He took the penalty. He usually does not miss from the spot, and he doesn't do so here as that made it 4-2 in this one. It was more of a consolation goal because in the end, Austin get the 3 points of this one. This is by far the most goal that they've scored so far this season, and probably the best that they have looked so far this season on the attacking perspective. And the shots in this one, 16 shots for the 15 that DC had. 6 shots on goal compared to the 7 that Austin had. 3 shots off target for the 4 that DC had. 5 shots that was blocked for the 6 that Austin had. And possession-wise, 55% possession compared to the 45% possession that DC has in this game. So I don't know if this is just because they're facing against DC because DC is not a good team whatsoever. But I think Austin fans will be happy the fact that now that the attack has finally got going, and now you start to see guys that desperately need a goal finally start to get going. Maybe this is going to be started to be something good in the second half of the season. I mean, once they can get this attack going, I think this team can definitely be a dangerous team. We know that this team is very good defensively. This is one of the better defensive team, and not to mention when you have Stuver in net, he's probably one of the best goalkeeper in the league and definitely running for goalkeeper of the year this season as well. But if they can get that attack going, this can be a scary team down the stretch. But that's a big if in terms of the attack because, like I said, even with this 4 goal performance, I mean, as much as Austin fan will be happy, how much is that because they were playing against the DC and DC is a team that likes to ship goals for fun when you play against them. Now, moving on in terms of the next match is Charlotte and Toronto. So Charlotte, not only it feels like they finally got out of that snout that they had back in May and June, where the sky was definitely falling for Dean Smith's side, but now it seems like they're back on track. This is now look like the Charlotte that we had seen early this season. Now, is this because of the fact that they're playing against easy team and they're playing at home? Yes, it is. I mean, they are playing a couple of bottom feeder, but hey, I mean, as the old saying go, you can only play against teams that is in front of you, and against a Toronto team that, as I said, this is a team that can definitely put up some resistance, and this is not the same Toronto team that we saw in the early part of the season that are just kind of like the Santa Claus of MLS, giving 3 points away every single week. This actually turns out to be a very impressive performance for Charlotte, who is now all of a sudden won 4 in a row and are climbing high up in the Eastern Conference table once again. Now, in the 5th minute, the first shot of the game did see Tokomati had a shot that was deflected and struck the post before the first shot. For Toronto, see Kalina denied Longstaff from close. Larea would then miss one to the side netting before Tuoluma would head it high from the corner. I thought it was a lively start to this game as both teams exchanged some possession. Malanda would then struck the post on the header. Yeah, the posts have not been kind for Charlotte in this one so far, and it wouldn't be kind for the rest of the game as well, because I believe they also struck the post later in this game as well. Longstaff would then hits one right to Kalina before Osorio missed wide from close to the 36 minutes. It's been a long time since Jonathan Osorio have played for this TFC side. He's been battling some injuries throughout this season. The longtime TFC captain. But there was no doubt that Toronto was also getting some dangerous chances, and now they were pushing for the opening goal. But we do head to halftime scoreless between both of these games, as it is kind of the case with a lot of TFC games this season. In the second half, Dominguez would hit it right to Kalina before Marshall Ruddy would put it just high on the top of the box. But yeah, just like the first half, there was some chances exchanged for both teams. Who can find that clinical finishing? The answer is Charlotte, as in the 60th minute, Tukamati would score from Bronico to make it 1-0 in favor of Charlotte. So Tukamati definitely taking his best opportunity now that Patrick Ajiman got sold off to Derby County. And, I know Charlotte is still actively looking for a number 9, but maybe Tukamati might be the answer because he's scoring the goals for this team. And as long as your number 9 is scoring the goals, maybe you don't really need a replacement. It feels like this is very similar to when Ajiman was in that spot where how there was a question once Karol Swiderski left, is Ajiman going to be the answer? And it turns out he was kind of the answer. It feels like we're starting to see the same thing with Tukamati as well. That now once Ajiman left, is Tukamati maybe the answer? Maybe they don't really need to look for a number 9 right now. It's going to be very interesting to see how that's going to play out for the rest of the season, especially the rest of this off season for the Charlotte front office. But 5 minutes later, they would make it 2-0 as Carvin Vargas would score from Zaha to make it 2-0 in favor of Charlotte. That was a world class pass there from Wilfred Zaha. And again, Wilfred Zaha definitely can have these kind of moments as well where he can show his ability. I mean, I know he hasn't shown as much as that not just Charlotte would want to be, but that was one of those moments where it was a sublime pass to Carvin Vargas to set him through. Though I didn't think this was hit very well for Vargas. I think this one is one that Sean Johnson, if you look back, he's probably thinking that he should have saved it because he kind of got a hand to it. It was kind of hit straight to him, just could not quite keep that out. And with the way how Johnson has been just so big for TFC this season, making some big save and kind of looked a little of his old self when he was an unstoppable force with NYCFC a couple of years ago. Yeah, that is one that he would definitely feel like if he looked that one back in the film room, he's gonna say that he probably should have saved that one. But nevertheless, Charlotte were up 2-0. Corbiano did look to respond, and he kind of responds in an emphatic way on his bike, but he just missed wide there before Tukamati was in on goal again, but this time he was denied by Johnson, and then he absolutely robbed Beal from point blank in the 84th minute, as now Charlotte was pressing for free in this one. They were looking for that third goal. Larea would then miss wide from close in the 6 minute stoppage time, but in the end, Charlotte gets the win again. It's now fourth straight win that they have in the last couple of games. The shots in this one, 13 shots for the 9 that Charlotte has, 4 shots on goal for the 3 that TFC had, 5 shots off target for the 2 that Charlotte has, 2 shots was blocked for the 4 that TFC had, and possession-wise, 55% possession compared to the 45% possession that Charlotte has in this one. And as I said, I know people will say that this 4-game winning streak from Charlotte isn't that impressive because they're playing a lot of bottom feeder and most of these games are at home as well. But considering the form that they were in May and June, and considering that I said before, in these bottom feeder in the Eastern Conference, these teams are no joke. I mean, these teams are putting some good resistance. I mean, I thought in this game, this was another one of those games where I thought Toronto played well in this one. Yes, they're not getting the resort, but that's kind of expected. I mean, that's been that kind of season for them where they're not getting the resort because they just don't have the quality to do so. But the fact that they're playing well and are making teams tough, that's kind of like the goal for Robert Fischer's side. And this is kind of where, again, for all these teams that are facing against these bottom feeder in the Eastern Conference, these teams are no slouch. They're going to push some of these top team around, and it's all about whether you can be able to put away those clinical moments. And Charlotte did exactly that, and now they have 4 wins in a row, and again are really starting to get themselves back in the conversation of a team that could be a team to watch in the Eastern Conference. Now, if they can definitely beat some of those top tier teams, some of the cream of the crop in the Eastern Conference, then yeah, they are definitely back in the conversation. And when I mean the cream of the crop, if they can beat the likes of Philly, Miami, Cincinnati, or even Nashville as well, or even Orlando as well, this could be a team that we might say that yeah, there might be joining the conversation again of another team that could be be a threat in the Eastern Conference. I mean, the East is already going to be a bloodbath. So if Charlotte gets in that conversation, it's just it's gonna be a maze to see who, of course, will make it out of that bloodbath. Like this Eastern Conference was just so many good teams in the East about to make it to the playoffs this season again. But with that being said, I am now going to switch board and look at the next three games because we got 9 games that have to switch the board 3 times in this one. So I'll probably erase the next board after I finish the review of those 3 games because I still have 2 more games as part of this 9 game review that I'm doing today. So moving on, we got Atlanta versus the Seattle Sounders, and this was a bit of a wild game late in this one. Though, I mean, are you surprised that it was a little wild in stoppage time and you see some stoppage time winner? Because it just feels like, as the narrative goes, there's always tends to be a late dramatic winner, whether it's Atlanta that scored the goal or their opponents scored the goal, whenever you see a game at the Benz. Now, in the first half, we actually got a goal just 7 minutes into the game as Yamar would score an own goal here, and this was just such an unfortunate own goal there because it was a wicked deflection off of a cross there, and it goes into his own net. So a little unfortunate for the Seattle Sounder, but that is one that for Atlanta, you're thinking, where has those kind of luck been this season in front of goal? But yeah, they made it 1-0 up to this point. Baker Whiting didn't look to answer, but he puts it high. Not much chances really to start this one, as there was a couple of half chances for both of these teams. Maronchuk would then puts it high from close before Brennan, which struck the post from close in the 41st minute as Atlanta was pressing to get the second goal. But in the 43rd minute, Brennan thought that he scored the second goal for Atlanta, but the flag did not agree with him. So the goal was disallowed for offside, and we do head to halftime with Atlanta leading 1-0. That lead would be short-lived though, because in the second half, in the 54th minute, De La Vega would ties the game. So he scored from Yamar here to tie the game up. So yeah, Yamar kind of got it himself a little redemption, being on the assist chart here. A rare assist there. You usually do not see center back being on the assist chart, but yeah, this was one. This was kind of a moment where I gotta say, Apple TV, they kind of had a Fox moment in this thing. They were still focused on that clearance, like they were literally focused on that clearance and didn't really change the angle. Like the ball was already away. Like they were still focused on the defensive end that they completely missed majority of that counter attack. So yeah, again, that is definitely not one that the Apple TV would like to remember, and you wonder why the viewership isn't really that good in this league. I mean the viewership, it is definitely not good, but the reduction for the most part is still better than what we see with Fox. But that was definitely not one of those moment there. And also De La Vega with another goal here. I gotta say, like I said before, it's the hair. That is the reason why he is not good. Now without the hair, it seems like he has become an unstoppable force and looked like the guy that the Seattle Sounders were hoping for when they signed him, because he then looked for another one in the 59th minute, but he puts it high there before Schleich would puts it just high from long range, and then Hernandez would puts it over from long range in the 74th minute as Atlanta kind of got the momentum back. Now they were pressing to try to get the lead back. Schleich would then hits it right to Thomas in the 3rd minute of stoppage time, but then the 5th minute of stoppage time, completely against the run of play. Del Rosario would score from Nuhu and Kent to make it 2-1 in favor of the Sounders, and yeah, not only was completed against the run play, but that just kind of sums up the season for Atlanta United. In a season that's full of underachievement and disappointment, that just kind of feels like it's the latest of the heartbreak for Atlanta to suffer in a game where they were the better team for the most part, and now they're on hand to get absolutely nothing out of this game. Or did they? Because in the 9th minute of stoppage time, Maronchuk would score an absolute banger from Almiron to tie the game up at 2 apiece in this one. It's kind of interesting that he didn't really go too crazy in terms of scoring this banger. He kind of had that calm celebration. Just kind of sums up in terms of the mindset that this Atlanta team has. It feels like the team is definitely not playing with a lot of swagger. The vibes right now is clearly off with this team, but nevertheless, it's another late goal to rescue themselves a point out of the game. I mean, in a season of hell for Atlanta United, you'll take any good moments that you, of course, would get in this one. But yeah, as I said, it ends in a 2-2 draw in this game. Some wild action once again we see at the Benz in stoppage time. But the shots in this one, 13 shots for the 8 that the Sounders had. Both teams had 2 shots on goal. 5 shots off target for the 4 that Atlanta has, 1 shot that was blocked for the 6 that Atlanta has, and possession-wise, 56% possession compared to the 44% possession that Atlanta has in this game. And if you're Seattle, normally when I said a team that give up a late goal, especially when a team that just score a stoppage time winner, or at least what they thought it was a stoppage time winner, they'll be the more frustrating side. But when you look at how this game has played, not only the Sounders didn't play well at all in this one, but I think they probably maybe are going to be happy that they at least got a point out of this one. I mean, the banger from Maranchuk, there was nothing that they could do. It was just a moment of brilliance that I'm pretty sure Atlanta fans been asking, where has this been from Maranchuk throughout this season? But yeah, I mean, it's kind of a weird one where on one hand they'll be very frustrated that they didn't held on of what they thought was a stoppage time winner to steal this game away. But on the other, I mean, at least they got a point out of this one. At least they score that goal too, and not give up a late goal themselves. That if Maruncha actually scored that goal there, and if Diozaro didn't score, they would have walked away at the Mercedes-Benz Stadium with absolutely nothing, and it would be justified because again, it was a very lackluster performance by Brian Schmitz. It's something we don't say about this team recently as well. Though one thing we are saying recently with this team is they have had their problems in terms of closing out games. This is another one of those games where once again they struggle in terms of trying to close out and blow late leads, and that maybe is going to be something that I think will frustrate Sounders fans. Now, moving on in terms of the next match is Minnesota and St. Louis. And I gotta say, I mean, yes, the Loons got 3 points in this one, but that's all the positive I can say about this game because my oh my, if you thought that Seattle played badly and kind of got away with a 1 point, I mean, Minnesota, this feels like it was a smash and grab for the Loons. I mean, they did not play well whatsoever in this game whatsoever, and that yeah, St. Louis. I mean, I think in some way it's fortunate that Minnesota was playing St. Louis because St. Louis this season it just feels like even if they're playing well, they always find ways to lose games, and that this is a team that is another one of those teams where they have problems in terms of closing out games. This season, they are among the top in terms of the league in terms of giving up late goals to drop points, and this was another example of it where they play well for majority of this game, but then once the final 15 minutes happened, the old narrative came back for St. Louis where they just cannot close out the game properly. Now, in the first half, we saw Pomperi hits one into the side netting as St. Louis was on the front foot. The Loons definitely did not start on time in this one whatsoever. Klaus would then hits it right to Dane Sinclair as the flag went up. The shots were 2-0 for St. Louis early in this one. Sunbin was in on goal here, but he goes wide in the 18th minute. By the way, both of the former Loons players, Sunbin and Padelford, did start in this one. I thought both of them looked good for St. Louis. It's kind of weird to see them in red instead of blue, but still, great to see them play well. They will forever be got guys that I will cherish. I mean, for Padelford cases, he's still technically a Minnesota United player because he's only on loan with St. Louis until the end of the season. But for some Ben, this is going to be one that kind of will hits a little bit because he was one of the fan favorite in this Minnesota team. While his quality definitely didn't show it, he is a guy that a lot of Loons fan will always will be happy. And if he would have scored here, I mean, it would have been a very bittersweet kind of moment. But at the same time, he didn't score here because yeah, that's the Sunbin that I knew. I mean, I couldn't resist because I seen that moment before where there's a reason why Minnesota was okay moving on from him. He definitely has the pace to show, and that actually was a great first touch that he brought. That was another thing that kind of frustrates me when he was with Minnesota this season. But yeah, his finishing, yeah, it's just not there whatsoever, and that was kind of an example of it. Klaus would then had a shot that was clear off the line by Boxall, but there was a lot of alarm bells that was ringing in that back line for the Loons. And keep in mind, this team was a little shorthanded coming into this one. They do not have Joaquin Pereira. They did not have Romero at the back because of both of them getting suspended in this game, and they also didn't have Robin Love at least until the second half of this game as well. So this was a bit of a shorthanded team, so maybe that kind of explains why they weren't doing that well. But there was no doubt the alarm bells was ringing loud for this Loons the fans who just getting ripped apart at times by this St. Louis side. They were walking on a very tight rope. Dane Sinclair then denied Leuven from long range. The shots were 5-0 for St. Louis as you just kind of had a sense that not only they continue to press for the opener, eventually one of them is going to go in. Yoboa would then hits one right to Berkey as that was the Loons' first shot in the 29th minute, and then Markanek would puts one in the stands in the 30th minute. finally there's some life that started showing from the Loons up to this point before we get to the hydration break, because they have been pretty much bunker in throughout this whole game and pretty much second best throughout this whole game. But unfortunately, in the 35th minute, a penalty was given to St. Louis as Ostruck brought down Boxall in the box. I thought it was a very soft penalty. I think Ostruck kind of embellished a little bit of there, but that was just kind of one of those ones where even if that is the case, even if they go to VAR, I don't think they're going to overturn that. So here comes Lubin, a chance to slots it home from the penalty. He usually does not miss from the spot, and he doesn't do it either, as he made it 1-0, a well-deserved 1-0 lead for St. Louis nevertheless here in the 36th minute. Klaus looked for another, but he was denied by Dane Sinclair in the second minute of stoppage time. The Loons need halftime badly, because this has been one of the worst role performance I've seen from this team, especially for against a bottom feeder like that. Yes, I understand they don't have a lot of some of their key players, but man, this was rough to watch, to see them playing against one of the bottom feeder in the West and just look completely outplay in this one. There was at no point in this first half that I saw them bunkering in and thinking that, well, this is pretty normal for a Minnesota team, because that's the Ramsey ball that is. Ramsey ball is not just bunker in and just getting absolutely pounced game or wave after wave of pressure and not really have anything going for it on the attacking end. Like they couldn't even swing a counter attack because of the way that they the passing was just way off, and every time when they try to get out, St. Louis was there to win the ball right back. But luckily, they do head to halftime with a 1-0 lead, and in the second half, it feels like the adjustment was definitely made, because there was definitely more intensity that was shown by this Loons team that was missing in the first half. But the problem is, they still can't really create some dangerous chances. You know why? Because St. Louis has started to bunker in a little bit and asking if Minnesota can break them down. That's been one of the weakness for this Minnesota team. Whenever they have to break down a low block, yeah, it usually does not go so well for this team. Ludwig then hits it right to Berkey in the 68th minute, but then the 75th minute, a penalty was given to Minnesota as Yeboah was brought down by Durkin there in the box. There it was kind of like a little hopeful ball that Yeboah just kind of got behind the defense, and Durkin, he had no choice. He had to bring him down there. If he didn't bring him down, Yeboah was going to score that one, but because of the fact that he brought him down from the spot there, a penalty was given, and also because he didn't really play the ball. He just kind of wrestled him down to make sure he doesn't score there. Yeah, that's a denial of goal score opportunity. So Durkin got sent off. St. Louis were down to 10 men. Minnesota gets the penalty. Here comes Yeboah, stepped up to take the penalty. He usually does not miss from the spot, and he doesn't here either. So the game was tied up at one apiece, and now I'm thinking, well, is this maybe a time where Minnesota can get themselves a winner, because they're a man up in this one. You would assume they would start to really press to try to get this winner, especially St. Louis has had. It feels like once that goal went in, if you're a St. Louis fan, you're thinking, "Oh boy, here we go again." And I think every St. Louis fan's probably thinking, "Yep, we're gonna lose this one, aren't we?" Owen Jean would then look for another, but he missed wide in the 85th minute. But then the 80th minute, another penalty was given to Minnesota as VAR deemed that Orozco handballed this one in the box. So here comes Yeboah, a chance to score for the second time from the spot here, and he buries it. So it's very rare that you see a game where there's free goals that score from the penalty spot. I almost said it's very often. It was very often when we see the referee points to the spot here, but it's not very often you see a game where there's free penalty, and that of course was the difference. But yeah, Yeboah gets the penalty here. It was now 2-1 in favor of Minnesota. We get 10 minutes of stoppage time in this one, so I knew this was not over, because I've seen this season before. Minnesota has had their issue in terms of closing out games, and this is for that 10 minutes. I was just thinking, please don't do this again. Please do not blow another late lead late in this one. Longwane trying to make sure it was more comfortable, but he got it all around on the curler. I mean, will that moment come back to haunt this Loon side, because I've seen that before. Harto would then have a shot that was deflected high before Teuscher would hit it right to Dane Sinclair in the 8th minute of stoppage time. But finally, by the time when we get to the 12th minute stoppage time, the referee below the full time whistle, I was exhaling in the biggest way possible, because that's just kind of how it is with Minnesota. I mean, they don't make it easy on themselves, isn't it? It just feels like it's a very typical Minnesota thing to not make things easy on me whatsoever, even when they're up a man and have the lead. But yeah, in the end, they do get the 2-1 come from behind win. The shots in this one, 8 shots for the 15 that St. Louis has, 5 shots on goal for the 4 that Minnesota has, 2 shots off target for both of these teams, 7 shots that was blocked for the 2 that Minnesota has, and possession-wise, 50% for both of these teams, and this was definitely a definition of a smash and grab for this Minnesota team. Though I will say this is that I have seen some kind of games this season where Minnesota actually play well and were the better team, and they don't get anything out of it because they blow late leads or are not able to break down a defense when the defense want to ask them to see if they can break them down. Let's do that at least for once that they're on the opposite end of that, because as the old saying goes, you're gonna have games where you win ugly, and then you also will have games that you play well but you still lose. So it kind of balance out in the end. Now moving on in the next game, and the last game on this board before I'm going to have to erase this board and put up the last two games of the Saturday night action is Chicago and the New York Red Bulls. So this was a pivotal game as well. So I know a lot of people were focused on some marquee matchup like the Cincinnati versus Miami game, but I would argue this one is even more pivotal because this is a playoff six-pointer. These are two teams that is literally right there in terms of the red line. The Red Bulls just sitting above the red line with Chicago is below the red line. A win in for one of these team, and that they can definitely solidify themselves above the red line. And in the end, Chicago is the team that is able to get the win, and now they're back above the red line. Whereas the Red Bulls, yeah, their playoff streak is in serious jeopardy after this loss. Now, in the first half, not much really happened early in this playoff six-pointer that we see. Tiran would miss wide from long range in the 18 minute before Cornell denied Gutierrez from close, as I thought the Fire started the better side. They were gaining some steam and were pressing for the opener. Cornell would then deny Zikanago in the 26th minute before he denied Bamba from close in the 27th minute. It was all Fire up to this point. But question is, can they solve Cornell, who they feel like he was on his games early in this one? Gutierrez would then puts it wide from long range before Choupo-Moting would hit it right to Brady after a rare or a rare Red Bulls chance up to that point. The post would then deny Duncor from close to the 37 minute. It feels like the Red Bulls started to show some light because really for the first 37 minutes they were not in this game whatsoever. Now they were looking to try to get the opening goal, but instead a penalty was given to the Fire as VAR deemed that Hack handballed this one in the box. So here comes Hugo Kuiper's a chance to bury from the spot. He usually does not miss from the spot, and he doesn't here, so he buries it to make it 1-0 in favor of the Fire. It's kind of interesting that both of these games, the winning goals came from the spot, and both of these games, the goals that was scored was from the spot as well. There was a lot of penalties that was given in some of these matchup. Carmona did look to answer, but he missed one in the 45th minute. But we do head to halftime with Chicago leading 1-0. In the second half, Bamba would hit it right to Cornell before Duncan missed wide from close range. Carmona would then hits one right to Brady before Cornell would deny Zikanago from close range. Both of these teams was definitely exchanging some possession, which is something that I don't think Fire fans would like to see. They want to see it locked down and not just potentially giving chances for the Red Bulls to tie the game up. Choupo-Moting would then hits it right to Brady in the 74th minute before Haile Selassie tried to finish it late, but he missed this one why in the 87th minute. And I am Miro. Will that chance come back to haunt the Fire? Because are we going to see a certified Fire moment where, for the most part, they play well in this one, but they somehow give up a late goal and they're not going to go above the red line? The good news for Fire fan, we didn't see a certified Fire moment here, as in the end, they get a big 1-0 victory against the Red Bulls, a rare win at home this season. We talk about the struggles this season for the Fire at Soldier Field. This gotta feel great, not only getting a big win against a rival when it comes to fighting for playoff position, but getting a win at home, which is something that they absolutely need to do if they want to get themselves into the playoffs this season. The shots in this one, 13 shots between 11 that the Red Bulls had, 6 shots on goal for the 3 that the Red Bulls had. Both team had 5 shots off target. Both team had 2 shots that was blocked, and possession-wise, 50% for both of these teams. And as I said about Chicago, that needs to win more home games so that they can get themselves into the playoffs. The Red Bulls, they need to win these road games, or at least get some points on these road games. These losses that they've been having this season, which is a lot of them, is really killing their chances of making the playoffs, and really is could be the reason where the streak would finally come to an end. I mean, we knew that eventually this streak was gonna come to an end. The longest active playoff streak that the Red Bulls had, making the playoffs in 14 consecutive season, and that, yeah, I mean. They just have not played well at all this season on the road. And at home this season, they haven't really picked up enough points where I thought that they could maybe get away with not have to play well on the road, but rely on their home form to get themselves in the playoffs. And as a result, that's kind of the spot that they found themselves in right now. And if this team doesn't find ways to get more road win. Especially this is kind of a resort that they just cannot afford to lose, especially when you're facing against a team that is going to be one team that they'll be fighting for those playoff position. Yeah, this is going to be a resort that's going to really hurt the Red Bulls down the line. But that being said, I am now going to switch board one last time to look at the last two games to finish off this review of this match week before we go on a 2 week League Cup break from MLS action. All right, so now moving into the last two games, starting off with RSL versus the San Jose Earthquakes, and this is a game that kind of summarizes where both of these teams is heading the stretch run in terms of the playoff push. Because while one team is definitely are hitting on all cylinder and are actually now above the red line after a big win in this one, the other, yeah, it is an absolute free fall right now for the Quakes. I mean, this is now 5 games without a win. It's another loss as well, and they couldn't even get a win against the teams that they've always tend to have good history with RSL, at least in the last couple of meetings, and in a game that, again, I thought this was the get right game for the Quakes, a team that they're very familiar and also have a good history on. And a little like early on that was the case, but then yeah, it didn't happen. But in the first half, Gozo was in on goal, but he was absolutely robbed by Daniel as it was deflected off the post and out as well. And yeah, that's just kind of a moment that sums up Gozo so far. He just have not had a lot of luck in front of goal. He then puts it wide from the curler as RSL was on the front foot. They were pressing for the opener goal. Martinez with the Quakes for a shot, but he heads this one right to Cabral before Luna would put it wide as he was in on goal there. There was just way too many 1v1 opportunity the Quakes were allowing. And I mentioned before the problem with this team when it comes to the defense as well, especially on the transition as well. How much teams just eat them alive whenever they go on the transition, and they're very lucky the fact that this is RSL and that for the most part they haven't really taken advantage of their chances. We then go for a period where not much really happened, as I thought the Quakes did at least do a good job in terms of timing things up. They probably saw what I wrote, and yeah, they definitely make things a little bit tightened up, and we do head to halftime scoreless between both of these teams. In the second half, Ricketts would hits one right to Cabral before Arango hits it right to Cabral as well. Luna would then drags it wide from close range. Both of these teams were definitely exchanged some chances early, looking for the opening goal. And just as I wrote that, Joseph Martinez would score. So he scored for Morongo and Espinoza to make it 1-0 in favor of the Quakes. That was a vintage Martinez goal. You know how good he is in terms of being the poacher. You see this all the time, especially doing his day with Atlanta United. And just like that, the Quakes had a 1-0 lead. I'm thinking, well, yeah, I mean, they have a good history against RSL. Looks like this is the get right game, right? Well, that lead lasted 6 minutes because in the 57th minute, Jamal Ricketts would score an own goal here. He was trying to clear this one off the line as well. Didn't get it correctly. That just kind of sums up the luck that the Quakes have been having. And just like that, RSL ties the game up at 1 apiece. Luna trying to make it 2-1, but he had a shot that was deflected onto the post. But then it falls to Gonzalez. He had a chance to hit it on the rebound, but he puts it wide as well. So yeah, again, RSL they look like they had all the momentum back. They were pressing to try to get the lead again. Though I said that Arango would puts it wide from close, and then Martinez would puts it right to Cabral in the 72nd minute. The Quakes continue to create a couple of half chances, but not really kind of danger. Cabral at least up to this point. Ruiz would then hits one right to Danielle before Arango would puts it just wide from long range in the 78th minute. Again, it feels like the game kind of is a little up for grabs because both of these teams were starting to get some chances, but in the 81st minute, it would be RSL that takes the lead for the first time. It's Brian Ojeda that scores to make it 2-1 in favor of RSL, and you know when things are not going well for the Quakes, especially on the defensive side when Daniel is making a mistake like that. I mean, for the most part, Daniel has been really the reason why this defense isn't as bad as it is, but this is one that he's immediately going to raise his hand and say that he should have saved it. I mean, it's just an absolute howler there. This one was hit right into Daniel. He just simply fluffs it there. I mean, you can also question the defending as well, and the fact that the lack of closing down from the Quakes was pretty alarming, but that is one that Daniel 9 out of 10 times he makes that save. And like I said, things are just not going well with this team when even one of your best player and you're a player that is really one of the reason why this Quakes team hasn't been giving up as much goals as they have done this season is making mistakes like that. And to make matters worse, in the 83rd minute, Reed Roberts gets himself a second yellow card. So just as you thought that maybe the Quakes might have a chance to push late, a red card happen, and that pretty much killed the momentum for any chances of a comeback for the Quakes. As in the end, RSL, like I said, they are charging up the Western Conference. They are red hot right now. It feels like they finally have started to figure it out in these last couple of weeks with a big 2-1 win in this playoff 6-pointer as well. I mean, I mentioned the game between Chicago and the Red Bulls were playoff 6-pointer. This was also a definition of playoff 6-pointer, especially in the Western Conference. The shots in this one pretty even. 9 shots for both of these teams. 3 shots on goal for both of these teams. 3 shots off target for the 2 that the Quakes had. 4 shots that was blocked for the 3 that RSL had. And possession-wise, 60% possession compared to 40% possession that RSL has in this game. And while RSL is definitely going the right direction, the Quakes are going the wrong direction. And I'm almost right now begging the front office to get some defensive and midfield reinforcement, because these last couple of games, it's basically shown the same issue over and over again with this team. What is the biggest problem with the Quakes right now? Why are they not winning a lot of games and losing a lot of games? It's because the defense absolutely sucked right now. It has revert back to last year form, and I'll tell you what, if they don't get reinforcement in terms of that defense and midfield as well, they can kiss the playoff hope goodbye. And that's such a shame too, because this team was so promising in the first half of the season, but this second half of the season, it's almost like last season all over again, where in the second half of last season it didn't go so well, and now it feels like it's happening again. Now, moving on into the last game on this board, and that, of course, is Vancouver and Sporting KC. So coming into this game, for Vancouver against an SKC side that, you just don't know what kind of SKC side will show up in a game. They've been kind of a little bit inconsistent lately, but this was kind of an SKC side that didn't really kind of show up for the entire first half, but they definitely showed up in the second half. But unfortunately, by then they were already down 2-0 against Vancouver, and this is a Whitecaps side that, with how good they've been this season under Jasper Sorensen, yeah, this is a side that doesn't give up leads when they go up 2-0. In the first half, Ngondo with the game's first shot, but he missed wide before Showery with SKC first shot, but he missed wide as well. Just like this game, both of these teams were definitely exchanging some chances early coming out of the game. White would absolutely sky one to Victoria in the 16th minute before Berhalter would miss wide from close range as Vancouver started to get some possession. In fact, not just get some possession, but dominate the possession, and now looking to try to get the opening goal, and they do. As in the 35th minute, Emmanuel Sabi, he scored from Nelson and Ngondo to make it 1-0 in favor of the Whitecaps. That feels like a very vintage Whitecaps attack. I mean, you know how dangerous they are in terms of building up, and especially Jaden Nelson going beast mode again. How many times we have said that this season? What a season he's been having. Sabi then looked for another, but he puts it high in the 37th minute before Nelson would hit it wide off the side netting in the 39th minute, and then Sabi would miss just wide from close in the 41st. So yeah, Vancouver, it was all in their favor. They have all the momentum, and now we're looking to press for another goal. If you're Sporting KC, you're just hoping that you can survive this first half, which they've been second best at 1-0. Bad news is that didn't happen, because in the 43rd minute, Ngondo would score to make it 2-0 in favor of the Vancouver Whitecaps. Originally, this shot, they had a shot that was blocked, but it falls right into Ngondo with some cool and collected finishing there, and just like that, it's 2-0 in favor of the Whitecaps. Jovic didn't look to answer, but he missed wide in the first minute of stoppage time. But we do head to halftime with the Whitecaps leading 2-0. In the second half, Postgame would deny Nelson from close before Showery would hit it right to Takaoka. Davis would then hit a free kick right to Takaoka as well. But I thought it was a much better start for Sporting KC. They started to get more possession, started to be a little bit more meaningful on the attack compared to what we saw in the first half. But in the 68th minute, White looked like he made it 3-0. The problem was the flag did not agree with him, so it was disallowed for offside. Takaoka would then deny it in Dembe, but then here comes Munoz, and he had a chance to try to score on the rebound, but unfortunately his shot was deflected. Though it still had to be an intervention for Takaoka there, as he had to make the save as well. He then or in the 71st minute, and again, this is where when I wrote things so fast, I accidentally put the wrong kind of thing here. But yeah. So what I meant here was that Munoz would miss wide from close range. I don't know why I put the Vancouver netminder in the way that it's missed wide. Again, this is what happened when you start writing things really fast, like I did for this review. But there was no doubt that Sporting was coming. Like they were pressing hard to try to get get one back. Again, I said that Vancouver doesn't usually give up leads, but it was looking a little bit pear-shaped with the way that Sporting was really pushing hard to try to get one back instead of a really interesting finishing. Nelson would then puts it wide from close in the 86th minute, but then in the 87th minute, Vancouver put this one all out of reach for Sporting case of the half because Laborda would score from Berhalter and Badwell to make it 3-0 in favor of the Whitecaps, and that would be the final score of this game. That third goal just absolutely crushed the comeback attempt for Sporting KC as they were pushing hard late in this game. But the shots in this one, 21 shots committed, 11 that Sporting KC had, 5 shots on goal for the 3 that Sporting KC had, 8 shots off target for the 4 that SKC had, 8 shots that was blocked for the 4 that SKC had, and possession-wise, 54% possession compared to the 46% possession that Sporting KC has in this game. And don't look now, but the Vancouver Whitecaps, they look like they're back on track. And this is not a big surprise. Consider after what they had to deal with in terms of all the competition that they have to endure with the the oh god, Ring is not thinking in terms of what was to say the Concacaf Champions Cup. That's what I'm trying to say as well. But yeah, the after them have to deal with the Concacaf Champions Cup, MLS play, and even the Canadian Championship early on. You just kind of had a sense that this team was stretched to its depth, and that yeah, it's not surprised that doing June time, especially after that big 5-0 loss that they suffer in the final, that you see the intensity really drop on this team. But now it feels like now that they got guys healthy and especially getting some more rest compared to what we saw in the beginning of the season, this team look like they're back to their old self, and that's bad news for the rest of the Western Conference because we saw how good the Whitecaps were when they were themselves and were in an informed state. When they're in an informed state, this team is an absolute wagon, and this is the team that you better get out of the way because they're probably gonna get free points against you relatively easily. But there you have it. That is pretty much it when it comes to the review of all of these games. A relatively long review because I had to do 9 games, that is. But we're not going to do one of these until August, or at least I think the second week of August. That is, if I'm not mistaken, considering we're gonna have a bit of a Leeds Cup break as well. And again, with the Leeds Cup, my thinking is that I'm gonna do something similar I did last year. I'm just going to do some selective games, at least in the group stage, that is, and then I'll probably do more as we get into the knockout round as well. But either way, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure to leave a like, smash the subscribe button. As always, let me know in the comments below what do you think of these games. And yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you guys next time.